Hello Internet, it's time to return to Springwood with episode 11 of the first season of Freddy's Nightmares, with an episode entitled Do Dreams Bleed? Again, it's written by Michael DeLuca, the exec producer on the show. He's had his hand in quite a number of the scripts, so it's obvious that this guy is shaping the series. This is a great little episode. It's directed by Dwight Little, whose previous horror-related credits include directing Halloween 4 and this little gem, Phantom of the Opera, starring Robert Englund as the Phantom. I might do a review for this at some point because it doesn't get talked about nearly enough. This episode, though, is really good. I really enjoyed this one. It's very Freddy light in one aspect, but in another way you can see potentially him as the puppet master behind the entire episode. It centres for the most part on a college sweetheart couple, John and Ronnie. John's the quarterback, Ronnie is a music student, and John is the Mr. Perfect, sort of like all-star quarterback. The only problem in his life is that he's been the witness to a murder, and there's a new serial killer in town, in Springwood, the Springwood Chopper. There's an axe murderer around killing girls, and he stumbled across the Chopper, who was in the process of dispatching his third victim, and is now having nightmares about that. There's an excellent through line between John and Ronnie, which is a staple of the Elm Street universe, wherein they have difficult relationships with their parents. John's parents are never around. His dad travels for work a lot. Ronnie's dad is off the scene, and as a result his mum doesn't trust any men, and seems to have a string of casual relationships. So there's a classic Nightmare on Elm Street trope right there. But in John's nightmares, he continues to be confronted by the Chopper, and thinks that his dreams are trying to tell him something that he may have remembered from the actual event, which might help him identify the Chopper. Now, I don't think, watching through the entire episode, that there's supposed to be any kind of twists or turns as to who the identity of the Chopper is. As we all know by now, each episode is split into 2 acts. Sometimes the stories are tenuously connected, sometimes there's a very strong through line. There's a very strong through line in this one. John is the focus of the first half, and at the end of the first half, he gets institutionalized, and it's hushed up between his parents and his coach, who is also sort of his mentor, because they believe that he is the Chopper, so he gets locked up. And in the second half, Ronnie starts having nightmares about her experience, because she believes that he was in the process of trying to kill her when Coach saved her. But she thinks that her dreams are also trying to tell her something, and what she thinks is real, what everyone is saying around her, well, sorry, the parents and the coach, because they keep it hushed up, what they're saying, that her boyfriend is the Chopper, she's thinking that's not necessarily the case, and her dreams are also trying to tell her something. As I say, it's not a big reveal when we find out who the Chopper is, but that is not actually the climax of the episode, and you get this quite gleeful suspicion that one, Freddy's quite happy with the chaos ensuing around the continuing murders, but 2, he doesn't rate the Chopper in any way, shape or form. In the first portion, he calls him a second-rate killer, and I genuinely think that he's using the Nightmare Realm, 1, to bring the Chopper's reign to an end, but also just to fuck with absolutely everyone who's had any involvement with him whatsoever. Ultimate chaos. So he's definitely working in the background here in this episode, trying to get his very own brand of justice, and that does not mean that the innocent goes free and the guilty get banged up. It means that everyone suffers. The direction here is really solid. I wasn't surprised when I checked Dwight Little's CV that he's got other horror films under his belt. You always have to make exceptions with budgetary requirements, but the way he's filmed the dream sequences here, they feel really organic. They feel really, really dreamy. Although they're very, very simple, I think that's probably works really well. And it feels they feel like Elm Street nightmares. Some of the other episodes we've seen, dream sequences have just been an excuse to do silly stuff. This feels like a Nightmare on Elm Street episode, and I was really intrigued by the notion of what would happen. You know, they don't explore it in much depth, but the notion of, well, what would happen if another killer turned up on Freddy's patch and started killing people and taking away his headlines? How would Freddy react? It's a nice little thing to muse over. Solid episode, great fun, and I'm sorry I took so long to get round to it. I've let the Nightmare reviews run fallow for a few months because I've had so many films that I want to get in. I still haven't managed to, but I'm going to crack straight on now with episode 12. Well, episode 12 is another real cracker. It's called The End of the World, and once again it's Freddy sort of suggested in the background, puppeteering and orchestrating all of the events using nightmares, and Freddy's plan in this one is off the scale. Both parts follow Amy. In the first part, through her dreams, she actually revisits a childhood accident that caused the death of her mother, and it's very heavily implied that Freddy gives her the ability through the dreams of that day to change the events and therefore change her present. Think the movie Butterfly Effect, if you like, but since this is Freddy's Nightmares episode, every time she tries to fix things, she wakes up in the present day and things have got worse. She can't fix the past. And if she wants to save her mum, then she has to sacrifice other people. The second part is still with Amy, and she's still being tormented by her nightmares gifted to her by Freddy, but this time the stakes are ramped up off the freaking scale, because now when she dreams, she actually has a shared nightmare dreamscape with a guy who works in a nuclear missile silo for NORAD and has got his finger on the button. She comes to the attention of the CIA when she, in her dream, gets the missile launch codes, and she tells it to her doctor, who's throughout the entire episode, who, by the way, as an aside, is George Lazenby, so James Bond's in this episode. And the nightmares are driving this guy, Frank, to retarget the nuclear missiles on America and wipe everyone out. And it's a real freaking doozy. It's excellent. There's some nice, really creepy nuclear war imagery, burnt children hair coming out, teeth dropping out onto a Scrabble board as the family are playing Scrabble and spelling out nuclear war. And it's a sort of race against time with her in a sort of hypnotic dream state, trying to give the CIA as much information as possible, about who Frank is and where he is and what he's doing, so they can prevent him from releasing the missiles. The ending of it is a fantastic payoff, because he gets shot. I don't think it's a big spoiler to say that only 12 episodes into the series the world does not end, but when she comes out of her trance, she says he's dead, and it wasn't his fault. It was the nightmares. This is Freddy's plan to bring about the end of the world, and the bizarre final shot, which is absolutely superb, in a nod to Stanley Kubrick's Doctor Strangelove. We get to see Freddy riding a nuclear missile on its way towards planet Earth, and then he stops and turns around and says something to the effect of, "No, I'd prefer to take you all out one at a time." And the missile turns around and flies off away from Earth. But Freddy came this close to wiping us all out with nuclear war because he was manipulating the dreams of these two people. It's a fun episode. It's tense. We've had two great episodes in a row. I've had a blast tonight watching them. So hopefully you'll have fun hearing my faintly useless thoughts on this little gem of a TV series that needs an HD transfer and a full box set release.